This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
On today's World Insight, APEC meetings underway, hopes for Asia-Pacific economic recovery that affects billions. Could leaders get on board a fix for ailing economies and shore up global governance? Insights from Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. And a kinship-like friendship between China and the APEC host Thailand. With a state visit to Thailand later this week by Chinese President Xi Jinping, how will China and Thailand work together on connectivity, sustainable development, infrastructure, and more? Answers from key voices of Thailand's business community.
Hello, I'm Tian Wei on assignment in Bangkok for APEC 2022. Welcome to World Insight special coverage. The Asia Pacific is home to about 2.9 billion people, or nearly 40% of the world's population. With that much weight on its shoulders, APEC 2022 starts the ball rolling this week with its yearly economic leaders meetings. As the region is one of the most dynamic of the world today, the annual APEC events have also become hubs for movers and shakers from around the world. Among them, Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. After following a series of events taking place in the region like the G20 summit in Bali, he sat down with me on the sidelines of the APEC CEO summit and shared his observations about whether major economies of the region and the world can shore up global governance. On the G20, you were there meeting some of the leaders as well. Professor Schwab, what do you make of the result? Finally, they put something as a statement, and it seems quite positive with all the voices included.
I think it's positive. It's already positive through the fact that everybody agreed about the statement, which we haven't had the last years. Now the base has been formed, but we have to go one step further. We have to have a strategic mood. We have to construct the world of tomorrow. It's a systemic transformation of the world. So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation period.
Before we go to how the world will be described, China-US top leadership meeting on the sideline of the G20 summit, many say this is certainly a step forward. How much of a window opportunity would that provide us, do you see?
I'm very optimistic, and I feel it was a very positive outcome because the two sides reconfirmed that they would like to cooperate again, each with another. I think
and mechanism being established.
And mechanism being established. But now there are many issues, of course, environment, of course, the food crisis, and so on, where we need concrete cooperation. And that's now in the next steps, which we have to develop. But I think the two leaders and all the leaders assembled in Bali, I think feel now it's a time to look forward and to really put emphasis again on cooperation and not on confrontation.
We also feel that in the APEC this year, both the leaders meeting and also the APEC CEO summit, you just spoken at the opening panel, Professor. So how do you see we would be able to, with our capability, to carry on this kind of discussion in the right direction, as you put it earlier?
We have to define the specific elements of the global system. For example, nature and environment, climate change, and then to see what are actually the areas where we can make true progress, where we can have a real impact. I just take climate change. I mean, it's such a complex issue. It concerns not only the reduction of CO2 in industries, it's a change of lifestyle. We need substantial innovation. We have to look for nature-based solutions. For example, I'm very glad that China is integrated into our initiative to plant 1 trillion trees in the next 10 years by making its own contribution. So it's a whole, let's say,
A holistic
a panoply of issues, and for each issue we have to try with a collaborative platform where we integrate the best people, the most relevant people, and then to work for progress.
Professor Schwab, I understand you have been writing a new book called The Great Narrative. And I also understand it's going to be in Chinese. Many readers are looking forward to read it. But, tell me more about how do you see the nature of great narrative with many of the challenges you just mentioned?
If we define first what the great narrative is, I think we have seen already before the crisis that we have to develop a world which is more resilient. We have to be resilient against crises like the climate crisis and so on. A world which is much more sustainable. We cannot destroy the nature endlessly, and we have to reduce temperatures to what we have agreed upon in the Paris Agreement, which means 1.5 centigrades. Otherwise, our children and grandchildren will have much worse lives than we have. And we have to make the world more inclusive. And all this we have to do through collaboration. That's the narrative. So we now looking forward, when we restructure the world, when we reshape the world, we always have to keep those objectives in mind.
From years of discussion at the World Economic Forum, nothing about great narrative is being formed easily. It's always years after years discussion and adjustments, as well as go with the wind in a way, with the smartness that make things happen. So you went through, Professor, with the World Economic Forum, the Cold War era and the end of the Cold War era. And now probably we're in another great transition. But you went through this, so maybe there are something that you went through could help us today to be more patient and to be more capable in listening to the others.
I think key is to preserve optimism and not to be fearful. If I look at the 50 years now, I have been part of global developments. Actually, humankind is much better off today, despite all the crises which we had. Just look at your country, how much it has eradicated poverty. And I could give you many other examples. For example, alphabetism was a big issue 50 years ago. Now it nearly has disappeared. We have life expectancy has increased on a global level by 12 years. So there are many men, when we look back, we just can say the world has got better. And it will, if we don't destroy it, it will get better even in the future. I think that's the nature of human beings. But we have to
What is the nature of human beings?
The nature of human beings is to look in generational terms and to strive that the next generation is better off than we are off. And the means to do so change. Today, we need much more cooperation compared to the past because we are much more interconnected compared to the past.
Since China just wrapped up the 20th Party Congress, the CPC National Congress, and there are clear goals being stated about the country's development and how it's going to deal with the rest of the world. So let me throw in some of these issues with you. One is a higher level of opening up. You witnessed from the very beginning of China's reform and opening up as a result of cooperation between China and the World Economic Forum. How do you see this promise of higher level opening up?
I came first to China in '79, just when the first opening up started. I think the new opening up should aim particularly at two things. Helping countries which are still left behind to achieve the level of development China has achieved. And second, I think with the new technologies, with the fourth industrial revolution, we have to make sure that we do not go into a technology war, but that we work together. And China is based on its own technological progress, very well equipped to do so, that we work together to make sure that those technologies serve all human beings on Earth and are not used in a combative manner.
The other thing about China is, according to the Party Congress, Chinese way to modernization or Chinese path to modernization. Now, of course, this is up to interpretation while things are happening because China is still heading toward modernization. But Professor, from your perspective, how do you understand this ambition of China to have the Chinese path toward modernization and share it with the developing world?
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries, but I think also we should leave it to each country to make its own decision what system it wants to adopt. And I think we should be very careful in imposing systems. But the Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries.
Chinese President Xi Jinping, back in the year 2017, delivered a speech at the World Economic Forum's annual conference. And that speech has been having its echoing since then. Professor, how do you see China's transformation? Many would wonder, since this is really 5 years since then, and how would you compare your impressions then to now?
It was a historical speech because it showed Chinese commitment to multilateralism, and I think it was very important. Now we are in a new situation, and I look very much forward, and we have seen it, of course, at the Party Congress. I look very much forward to have a strong Chinese voice in Davos to explain even better to the world what it means to see the Party Congress, which laid down the principles of the policy, what it really means for global collaboration and for global development.
Among many of the initiatives brought over by the Party Congress, in terms of international relations and global development, there's one thing called Global Development Initiative.
I have seen it.
And of course, earlier there was also talks about Global Security Initiative. Now, Professor, this, according to China's leadership, is complementary to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So how do you see these initiatives based on earlier practices? There were initiatives of Belt and Road and other things coming from China with the international community. To what way shall we be able to nurture and create together?
I think first it's very important to take such initiatives because we have to show a path to the future. And we have to do it on a national and we have to do it on a global level. Then I think it's very important that we make sure that those initiatives really get global support. Because I come back to the point which is so important, it's only through global collaboration. And we know that the global system depends very much on regional pillars, if I may say so. But we have to avoid that we have only two pillars. The world will be on a much more stable situation if all countries can become pillars of the same, let's say, collaborative system which allows different ways, but at the end provides a common approach.
Mm-hmm. So you are saying more efforts can be assembled as a result of an initiative like this?
Exactly, and each of those initiatives can bring in new aspects, and in such a way everybody will benefit from it.
Recently we see the visit by Chancellor of Germany, for example, to China makes a new page, some say, about the discussion between China and Europe. Now, Professor, I know you're having a global vision, but at the same time you're based in Europe. How do you see this potential of China, Europe, and China multilateral voices in a way?
I'm watching with great satisfaction that during the pandemic and now also with the war which we have at the borders of the European Union has become more unified. And we should not forget that Europe is still, in terms of trade, in terms also of economic power, it's one of the big powers in the world. So I'm very pleased that we speak not only about Chinese-US relations, but also again about European-Chinese relations. And I feel, despite all the question marks and to a certain extent cautious approach which we see in Europe, I think that very close ties can be established again between China and Europe, because there's such an interwoven economy. And so I'm very pleased if we can make progress in European-Chinese cooperation.
Professor Schwab, as always, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the next time.
That's my earlier conversation with Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. You're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Coming up in the program, a tight kinship between China and the APEC host Thailand, with a state visit to Thailand later this week by Chinese President Xi Jinping. How will China and Thailand work together on connectivity, sustainable development, infrastructure, and more? Answers from key voices of Thai's business community. Next.
The state visit this time is very important for this region.
The Asia Pacific is on her way back after years of the pandemic amid much uncertainties. Open, connect, and balance. Those are the aspirations, but solemn answers are needed about how. Join me on site at the APEC 2022 in Thailand, the last stop of a series of crucial multilateral engagements this year. We are here to wrap it up with direct analysis and frank interviews, only on World Insight. Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei, on assignment in Bangkok, bringing you this special edition of World Insight. Chinese President Xi Jinping is in Thailand not only for the APEC week, but also as the state leader from China to visit Thailand for the very first time. China is Thailand's largest trading partner, and cooperation in infrastructure investment are supporting the recovery of Thailand's post-pandemic economy. I talked to these two in Bangkok who have been keen to have the Thai business community reap the benefits of China-Thai cooperation. Take a listen. I'm glad to be joined by Sanan Chairman of the Thai Chamber of Commerce and also Chairman of the Board of Trade of Thailand. What a pleasure to see you.
Well, what a pleasure and privilege for me to talk to you, Wei.
And thank you for that wonderful Thai jacket for us. Thank
This
you.
is made from Thai silk.
Yes, exactly. And I'm also very honored to be joined here by Kriengkrai Thiennukul, who is the chair of the APEC 2022 for Thailand. Thank you so much also to join us.
สวัสดีครับ
Both of you were running around. I'm so glad you're sharing your time with us here. But something very important from both of you. How do you see the global governance messages?
So I think that right now as you see that the leaders all over the world, we are concerning about all the the governance, and with the APEC recommendation to all the leaders. That is the most important. We are seeking for the 5 working group and all that, including all the key messages that we would like to send to all the government and for the economic leaders.
I think this is a very concerted effort this time. There are strong messages coming from leaders of the Asia Pacific region about prosperity, about togetherness, out of the current circumstances. What about for you?
Well, I think it's very important because talking about not only prosperity, I think the sustainability for this time is very, very important.
This is also one of the very first times that we are having a strong Chinese delegation. And also I understand there's a lot of cooperation among APEC members as well. What do you make of the current state of cooperation, sir, for the APEC 2022? And meanwhile, Chinese president is making a state visit to Thailand, to your home country. How is that going to enhance, in a way, the already existing trust and relationship?
The state visit this time is very important for this region, and I think that to the world as well, because that he's a leader of the world, one of the very powerful, the country in the world. So I think that they are now with this initiative, not just only you see that, and his statement, he always said that common prosperity. These are key words. We don't just only see only the development, but how to exhibit, the wealth and sharing all the wealth, and to support the public and people all over, and how to improve their living, their life, and their income.
How do you see that's going to help us to go to another level, the already existing strategic partnership, comprehensive strategic partnership?
Well, I think peaceful for the world is very important, and make the people to people, for all the nation. I think this is also the key, strategy that we have to support. And of course, nowadays you talking about the digital generation. So China is very far ahead, in terms of technology in all aspects. So I think for Thailand we can also learn a lot, and the cooperation from these two countries, Thailand and China, I think we will get the support of the investment also, not only the tourists
Yes.
to Thailand. Even education, I think, is very important. For
China and
all
Thailand already the largest trading partner with one another. China's investment and also innovation plays a big role here in this country as well, with the wonderful cooperation from our Thai business community. So what do you make of next stage? You talk about sustainability, you talk about sharing of development. How will that be carved out in the future? Do you have something in mind?
I think that's still not, enough for us.
In infrastructure, for example.
Infrastructure. In technology.
Technology,
Yes. And I think it's a good chance for Thailand to export, to many of our products, like the fruit, especially durian, and also the rubber.
Yeah.
And, well, even tapioca starch and so on.
Right.
But we need more investment because recently we just hold what we call China Investment Forum, and that gets the attention from not only Thai people but with the Chinese enterprises also.
When people look at the world's economy, this region, Asia Pacific, is on the priority list. And we are having a lot of vibrance. Just look at here, the APEC CEO Summit and also the APEC Leaders Meeting, a lot of discussions going on. So what about that? That we will be the very first, one of the very first economic engines waking up after the pandemic. What does that mean for us?
So of course, right now after 3 years of the pandemic and the COVID, you see that all the economic engine is stopped down. But right now there's the how to reopen.
Restart.
Yeah, and restart and how to, like a speedy recovery for the economic for all of the world, and how to have the levels, for the economic activities. That is the most important for us. And right now, not just only the speedy recovery for the economy, but we have to add the sustainability as well.
A higher quality development.
Higher quality. You can see that for the APEC this time, we see that they have the word is a balance. The balance is not just only, you aiming for the maximize profit, because right now you have to think about the world, think about the environment. So this is the meaning of the sustainability and about the people as well. So we have mentioned in our the APEC recommendation, one of that is about the MSMEs, you see, and inclusiveness. We talking about the economic, we're talking about the people, how to help them, how to make their recovery.
Also the connectedness, not only the Belt and Road, but also the Global Development Initiative, that very much Thailand has been cooperating with many partners, including with China. How do you see its potential?
Yes, it's a great potential because India, when you first initiate just only BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, I think that right now you have a Global Development Initiative. So because a BRI is like a hardware, but this is a software. So they have to go to parallel, not just only the investment, but about the development. Yes, and in the people, that is for the enterprise have to play a big role, but this is for the people-centric, the people-centered. So it's a different, and this is providing just really, like a corridor, the economic corridor, but this is not it's a granted to be like the people to have the money to investment, and development.
Many of the key words both of you share with us are very crucial, and it also reflects the hearts and minds of people here in Thailand and, shall I say, also of Asia Pacific region. Thank you so much for your input. You've been running around here to do a lot of hard work, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of my teams, both in Bangkok and Beijing. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.